Ms. Greene, if somebody tried to unlawfully interfere with the process of counting the electoral votes, unlawfully, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution. Wouldn't you agree?
Does it define that way? Is it defined that way?
Well, I'm asking for your understanding. If somebody broke the law in a way designed to interfere with the process of counting the electoral college votes, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution.
You mean interrupting Congress? Is that what you're referring to?
Doing anything unlawfully to interfere with the process of counting the electoral votes.
Interrupting Congress, like when the Democrats interrupted Congress and had a sit-in on the House floor and stopped Congress?
Excuse me, Mr. Greene.
Yes.
Could you rephrase your question?
I'm entitled to ask my questions in the way I'd like to ask them, Your Honor. I ask that you listen to my question and simply respond. May I proceed?
Yes.
So if someone broke the law in an effort to interfere with the counting of the electoral votes, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution. Am I right about that?
Breaking the law is unlawful. There's been over 700 people charged for what happened on January 6th.
Right, and those people were trying to interfere with the lawful process of counting the votes for the Electoral College, right?
I would assume, yes, they did. They stopped the electoral count. Yes.
Right, and so those people would be enemies of the Constitution. You would agree with that, right?
I don't know if it defines it that way.
Well, having taken the oath that we saw on the screen, if you were aware that someone was going to unlawfully interfere with the constitutional process of counting the electoral votes, you'd be obliged by your oath to try to stop them, right?
Your Honor, I object. The claim is not she violated her oath. The claim is under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And so her opinion on words like enemies are words of art often in the law is just irrelevant to the matter, to whether or not she engaged, did a direct and overt act of insurrection.
Your Honor, we had a 1-hour presentation on the law from Mr. Bopp. We did not object to that.
I will let you answer the question. I've forgotten what it is. Could you repeat it?
Weird how Marjorie Taylor Greene can't answer the very, very basic question regarding whether someone interfering in the counting of electoral votes would be an enemy of the Constitution. I wonder if maybe, by chance, it might have something to do with the fact that that's exactly what she did. Now let's be crystal clear here. The US Constitution lays out the process by which Congress, and only Congress, is entrusted with counting electoral votes. It is enshrined right there in the Constitution. And so if you impede or block Congress's ability to do its constitutional duty of counting votes, which again is enshrined in the Constitution, then I think it's a pretty clear interpretation to say that you are opposing the Constitution or an enemy of the Constitution. All of this seems pretty basic so far. Now why might Marjorie Taylor Greene try to wiggle her way out of answering this question? Why might she desperately try to pivot to equating her situation with a sit-in by Democrats at some unrelated moment in time? Probably because of all of the evidence against her showing that not only did she want to block the counting of the votes, but that in fact she incited the insurrectionists to do exactly that, meaning that she was in part responsible for it. And don't take my word for it, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, in her infinite wisdom, decided to post her proof of incitement on her own Facebook page.
America reelected Donald J. Trump for 4 more years. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president, because he did not win this election. It's being stolen and the evidence is there. There's a large group of us. We're organizing an effort to object to the electoral college votes for Joe Biden in key states where there's real evidence that this election has been stolen. I am very convicted in what we're going to be doing on January 6th, and it's historic, and I feel it's very, very important. On January 6th, if you're able, there are going to be possibly 1 million or more people coming to Washington to be there for this historic event. It's critical for everyone to show up and show the nation who we are. We aren't a people that are going to go quietly into the night. We are not a people that are going to be thrust into socialism without stopping it.
She said, you can't allow it to transfer power peacefully, meaning she was endorsing an insurrection. She said it's critical to show up, meaning on January 6th. We aren't a people that are going to go quietly into the night. We're not a people that will be thrust into socialism without stopping it. And you know what happened on January 6th? Exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene intended and broadcast and incited. A mob showed up at the Capitol with exactly the intention of not allowing a peaceful transfer of power. So we don't have to wonder whether she engaged in insurrection because there is quite literally video evidence. In fact, she staked her career on it, knowing that if the insurrection succeeded, she'd probably be safe, and that if the insurrection failed, which it did, that she probably wouldn't be so safe. That was a gamble that she decided to take. And so if she's disqualified, that is the consequence of her own actions, which is something I didn't think I needed to explain to the so-called party of personal responsibility. And while we're on the topic of personal responsibility, maybe take a listen to this to get a sense of who the people on Marjorie Taylor Greene's team thinks bears responsibility for the events of January 6th and who is the real victim in all of this.
Our country's elected leaders were victimized right here in the very halls of Congress. Representative Greene was a victim of this attack. Her life was in danger, she thought. She was scared and confused. Her children were frantic about what was going on and feared for her safety.
She feared for her safety when the mob that she incited did the thing that she incited it to do. Did I get that right? So look, I'll just say this. I don't think that you should be disqualified because you're a Republican. I don't care who Republicans elect. If they want to elect a paper bag to represent them, good for them. But I believe in our Constitution, and our Constitution expressly states two things of importance here. First, as I mentioned before, that Congress has the sole responsibility to count electoral votes. By preventing that process from taking place, Marjorie Taylor Greene violated the Constitution. And second, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution says, quote, "No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof." By inciting the events of January 6th, she again violated the Constitution. That is why she should be disqualified. This isn't a partisan issue, this is a constitutional one. So you can either defend the Constitution or defend Marjorie Taylor Greene, but not both. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.